A hush lay over the morning like gauze, thin and deceptively delicate, as if the very air in King's Landing sensed that one slight tug might unravel the day. Sparrows scuttled through the dusty alleyways below the Red Keep, their wings fluttering in brief, frantic bursts, yet even their chatter seemed subdued. Dawn's first light touched the gilded towers and battlements in hesitant strokes, painting dragon-skinned banners with a pale rose that would soon harden into gold. From the highest balcony of Maegor's Holdfast, Olenna Tyrell watched the city breathe. The sea air was damp with salt and tar. The stench of the fishmongers' wharves rolled upward in slow, oily coils, yet she barely noticed. Her sharpened gaze rested, instead, upon the roiling skein of courtiers and guardsmen gathering around the gardens far below. Somewhere in those intricately trimmed hedgerows, a boy of 8 named Tommen Baratheon chased after a lavender-colored kitten. The Queen of Thorns clicked her tongue. It was not, strictly, a sound of disapproval. Tommen's innocence stirred a pang even in her flinty chest, but rather the metallic click of strategy snapping into place. She had rehearsed the moment 100 times in her head, placing and replacing each piece on the board, knitting probability like a lacemaker. Poison was neither kind nor cruel. It was a pragmatic instrument, a scalpel for a festering realm. What mattered was the choice of patient. And in that choice, Olenna saw more than a child. She saw a keystone shoring up Cersei Lannister's crumbling facade, a symbol Joffrey could not comprehend yet would bitterly feel once it toppled. Tommen's death would be a quiet blade sheathing itself in every heart but Joffrey's. There it would burst into roaring flame. Soft footsteps rustled behind her. "Grandmother!" Marjorie's voice, breezy as the Reach in summer, failed to disguise a tremor. "Ser Loras has found me a place beside his grace for the archery displays. The royal box will be—" She hesitated, eyes drawn to the city's copper roofs. "Is it truly necessary?" Olenna did not turn. "You recall how roses grow, my sweet. We prune, we shape, we remove whatever steals light from the blossoms we wish to thrive." The old woman breathed in, as though scenting distant orchards. "Joffrey is the sun, a scorching, merciless sun. Remove his shade." A thin finger lifted toward the gardens where Tommen laughed. "And he will blaze hotter. But we, not the Lannisters, will hold the water pail to douse him when the time comes." Marjorie's lips pressed into a pale bud. "You think his cruelty will undo him? I think a king without restraints is a beast too stupid to notice snares," Olenna murmured. "And Cersei's last true restraint is her younger son." Below, Ser Boros Blunt ambled after Tommen. A pair of septas fussed near the fountains, plucking fallen petals from the marble lip. The boy darted between rose bushes, giggling whenever the kitten nuzzled his ankle. Olenna saw the guard raise a tired hand and call him back, saw the child ignore him with the sweet defiance of youth. There was a purity to Tommen's laughter that could rend armor more surely than Valyrian steel. She felt that tear, let it bleed for a heartbeat, then smothered it beneath 60 years of quiet victories. "Tomorrow's feast will be crowded," she said. "Too many goblets, too many sweetmeats, too many eyes half-drunk on pageantry. No one will notice another silver cup. One mistake," Marjorie whispered, "and they will notice everything." Olenna finally turned. Her blue eyes glittered like chips of frost. "Then do not make mistakes." The day unfurled itself in languid ritual. Crimson cloaks swept the corridors. Trumpets called minor lords to crawl like bees toward the Queen Regent's honeyed approval. Cersei paced the small council chamber, gauntlet by her own restlessness, jaws clenched as though she might yet grind the city to dust between her teeth. Joffrey, elsewhere, rehearsed cruelties. Tywin's ghost seemed to hover in every corridor, though the old lion still breathed, still prowled the winding steps around the Tower of the Hand, reminding the court that true power need not raise its voice. It merely waited for the weak to stumble. In the Sept of Baelor, Tyrell seamstresses stitched lilies into Marjorie's underskirts, while maesters haggled over the apothecary's accounts. A feast of Christmas orange amuse-bouches had arrived from Dorne. A thin deception, for there was no Christ in this realm and the fruit lacked both sweetness and warmth, but they glittered in crystal bowls all the same. Cersei wanted stately grandeur for her elder son's victory pageant. The Tyrells supplied riotous abundance, sweet wines and dappled cheeses, butter-rich pastries shaped like stags and roses. Somewhere amid the clamor of preparation, a single amethyst was dropped into a tall carafe of hippocras, where it drifted quietly to the bottom. No one marked the plink but a serving girl with crooked teeth. She blinked, shrugged, and thought of her 6 sisters' medicine. Gemstones were rumored to cure fevers if ground fine enough. Perhaps that one would slip loose for her pocket. She never saw the wrinkled hand that palmed the decanter half an hour later. Night settled upon the red keep in scales of black and bronze. braziers guttered along the stone drum, casting serpent shadows across the yard where the Kingsguard drilled. Jaime's sword hummed a lonely tune as steel met steel. Yet it was the other brother, the clever one, who worried Olenna. Tyrion prowled with a Sellsword's limp, his sharp eyes following servants like arrows seeking their marks. He had sniffed out the queen's death once before. He might do so again. Thus Olenna wove a separate thread for him. A cask of arbor gold delivered to his solar, laced not with poison but with a soporific potent enough to fell a horse. She trusted his love of drink more than she trusted her own heartbeat. In her chambers, she crushed the leaves of the strangler to dust. Violet petals crumbled, staining her fingertips a dim blue. Maesters claimed the poison came from Ass-High, that it arrived on the black-hulled ships which trafficked night horrors and corpse lights. Such tales made good warnings for reckless apprentices. Olenna preferred simpler truths. A single pinch could still a grown man's lungs. Half a pinch would pause a child's heart and leave no stain upon the lips. The trick was to stir it, never pour. Pouring left residue. She mixed the powder with cane sugar, folded it thrice through. The sweetness masked the bitter tang. Grandmother. Marjorie again, this time draped in dusk blue silk. It is late. She smoothed the coverlet on Olenna's bed, though neither of them meant to sleep. I fear dreams. Fear waking, child. Olenna sealed the vial and pressed it into her granddaughter's palm. Dreams are fragile. Life is a siege. Morning's trumpet came too swiftly. Royal horns blared from the ramparts, summoning the city to celebration. Street vendors hoisted barrels of new ale. Sewers overflowed with last night's refuse. The black cells groaned with names no servant dared utter. Yet above it all, in the throne room as cavernous as an echo, Joffrey Baratheon lounged across the Iron Throne like a boy who believed the world was a cushion. He tapped Sansa Stark's arm with the point of Widow's Wail, smirked when she flinched, and commanded a juggler to swallow live butterflies because the notion pleased him. Jaime muttered, too quiet to be treasonous, that the smiths would dull the sword if it touched another maiden's flesh. Joffrey laughed, a brittle burst that ricocheted off gilded pillars. Tommen lingered near the pewter braziers, freckled face flushed with excitement rather than heat. The kitten, having outgrown his lap, perched upon a page's shoulder. Each time Joffrey raised his voice, the younger brother flinched, then half smiled as though eager to share in the fun. It was innocence flirting with mimicry. Olenna watched, heart caught between pity and purpose. She studied the boy's goblet. Plain silver, rim chased with stag heads. It would be exchanged soon for a taller cup more befitting the royal procession to the September. She need not wait for that, she decided. Subtlety courted risk. Speed rewarded the bold. She beckoned to a Tyrell servant. No words passed, only a flicker of eyes. The servant, pale-cheeked and nimble, crossed the hall with a tray of sugared fruits. Candied plums lay in latticework golden as sunlight on wheat, each one a sticky gem. The servant offered them first to Tommen, who grinned and grabbed two at once. Powdered sugar puffed across his tunic. The kitten mewed and swatted the air. Joffrey sneered. Do you mean to fatten yourself further, little brother? You'll never draw a bow with those pudding arms. Tommen's cheeks burned. He put one plum back. The other he bit into. Syrup spilled down his chin like garnet. The servant bowed and withdrew. On the tray remained only 3 fruit. One for Marjorie, perhaps. One for Sansa, whose appetite had deserted her long ago, and one for a page who would soon slip away, feeling strangely drowsy. Olenna's fingernails pressed against her cane until white crescents bloomed. Minutes crept by in ceremony's slow dance. Heralds proclaimed lineages. Septons muttered blessings. The crowd swelled near the throne room doors. Nobles eager to parade beside a king they feared and a queen-to-be they envied. Tommen finished the plum, licked sugar from sticky knuckles. His eyes sought his mother, but Cersei's attention lay shackled to Joffrey's temper. The boy's shoulders slumped. He tucked the kitten under an arm and followed a herald toward the dais, hoping perhaps for praise. He did not reach it. A stumble at first. Too many hours in new leather boots, Olenna thought, nothing more. Yet the stumble became a sway, a lurch. Tommen's knees buckled. He gasped, no sound, just a thin wheeze. The kitten leapt free, yowled. Sugar-streaked lips trembled an instant before violet bloomed across them like bruised lilac. He collapsed, small hands scrabbling at air that suddenly would not fill his lungs. A hush rippled over the hall. A monstrous wave of collective breath sucked inward and held. Then Cersei shrieked. Time fractured. Jaime dropped his training sword. Metal rang as it struck stone. Joffrey shot to his feet. Confusion scrawled across a face used only to fury. Grand Maester Pycelle tottered forward, beard flowing like cobwebs. Tywin's eyes cut the room in two and found Olenna's for a heartbeat too long. Margaery darted to her brother's side, voice sharp and urgent and helpless. But none could act swiftly enough. The strangler's petals unfurled deep in Tommen's throat, stiffening muscle, damming blood. Within breaths, his small frame stilled. Olenna felt the world tilt on a hinge concealed inside her chest. Tommen had been meant to die, yes, but not here, not so swiftly. She had envisioned a quiet garden, a nightingale's song, a heart that slowed as sleep claimed it, something merciful, even if mercy was a lie told to soothe regret. This was carnage performed in full view of the realm. Cersei cradled the body, rocking, keening like a wounded dove. Joffrey's fist closed around his crown's gilded antlers until blood seeped beneath gold. Across the chamber, Tyrion emerged from a shadowed archway, face pallid, eyes wide but clear. Either her wine had missed its mark or his liver was sturdier than legend. Olenna tensed. The imp would see patterns in spilled wine, and here lay a pool of far darker proof. Guards swarmed, steel hissed, plate clanged. Pycelle's trembling fingers fumbled at Tommen's throat, searching for a pulse that had long since fled. Margaery pressed her forehead to her mother-in-law's shoulder, whispering something Olenna could not hear. Tyrion's gaze flitted from goblet to fruit tray to servant door and finally to her. Their eyes locked. A slow, sad knowledge dawned between them like frost blooming on glass. He bowed his head, almost imperceptible, as though conceding not guilt but inevitability. The morning ended in screams and scattered rose petals. By noon, the small folk had learned. Prince Tommen was dead. Rumor moved faster than ravens. Within hours, it grew claws and wings of tattered prophecy. Some swore a shadow with a woman's hair had kissed him. Others named dark magic or the vengeance of drowned gods angered by Lannister fleets. But most whispered Cersei's name. A queen who birthed monsters must pay the iron price for each, they said. Perhaps the seven had taken pity on the youngest and whisked him to gentler pastures. Cersei heard every rumor and fed them to her grief until it roared like wildfire. She barred the throne room with chains. She ordered the city watch to drag every Tyrell servant before her. One by one they knelt, trembling. Olenna had coached them with silence. Fear did the rest. Tyrion petitioned for calm, but each word he spoke sounded like mockery to Cersei's ears. She would have none of it. By dusk she had named the House of the Rose as conspirators. Joffrey, standing beside her, nodded approval so fervently one might think he had invented righteousness on the spot. The Tyrell host still encamped outside the city walls numbered 12,000. Ser Mace blustered past his worth. He threatened banners, marriages, supply lines. But lions tested roses and found thorns. Siege lines thickened like bark as each side braced for betrayal. Ravens flew to Old Town, to Highgarden, to Dorne. Alliances trembled. Gold shifted, knives sharpened. In the twilight of her solar, Olenna pressed parchment flat and began to write. An old woman's apology was worthless, she knew. Yet ink carried something more durable than sorrow. It carried intention. Her letter addressed the Lady Celis Florent at Dragonstone, a mother bereft of daughters. It spoke of innocence lost and fire reborn. In its folds she placed a slender shard of purple glass, the amethyst from the Hippocras, a token not of guilt but of warning. Poison favored no house forever. She sealed the wax, and with it sealed the first chapter of a war no bard would ever quite untangle. Night again. In the god's wood of the Red Keep, a solitary candle flickered before the heart tree's pale trunk. Its wax pooled at the base of carved eyes red as raw wounds. Marjorie knelt, head bowed. She had not wept in the throne room. Now tears soaked the moss beneath her knees. The candle stuttered, guttered, died. Darkness swallowed her prayer before the last syllable left her lips. Leaves rustled. She looked up to find someone standing beyond the moon-touched boughs. Jaime. His gold hand glinted dully. "I never believed the gods would save," he said softly. "Too many eyes carved where men cannot see." "The old gods can watch," Marjorie whispered. "They at least cannot speak." Silence spooled between them. Crickets chirred. Distant torches hissed. "Your brother was kind," Jaime said at length. "Kindness rarely survives in this place." She rose. "Nor innocence." He flinched, as though her words struck flesh. When he spoke again, voice rough, he asked the question that mattered, the one echoing through every corridor. "Did you know?" Marjorie closed her eyes. Truth hung in the balance like a sword above a silk thread. She thought of her grandmother's frail hand crushing violet petals. She thought of Tommen's laugh, bright and unblemished, and how it had died on sugar-coated breath. "I knew that I did not want Joffrey dead," she said. A smaller truth, but true nonetheless. Jaime stepped backward into deeper shadow. "Joffrey mourns as a dog chews a bone. He does not feel sorrow, only loss of property." "Your grandmother is not the crown," Marjorie finished. "Nor am I. The realm will bleed for this, Ser Jaime. But I will not." Her chin lifted, delicate and unyielding. "I have thorns of my own." He studied her, weighing steel against silk, then turned and left, cloak brushing dew-wet grass. Smoke coiled above Flea Bottom like a second sky by dawn. Rioters had set fire to a grain warehouse. Small folk screamed for bread, for justice, for the prince who had handed them copper coins and smiled without malice. Joffrey ordered the heads of the ringleaders on spikes within the hour. Cersei ordered the heads of any who spoke Tommen's name again. Beneath that edict, the city tasted the ash of its own fear and swallowed it. In the Tower of the Hand, Tywin Lannister convened a council at sunrise. Olenna arrived unbidden, flanked by Ser Loras and maidens of the bedchamber more lethal than some knights. Tyrion watched from a cushioned chair, a cup of tea steaming in his hands, eyes bright with cunning. Varys, pink as a plucked bird, fluttered in the corner. Grand Maester Pycelle wheezed. Lord Bolton lingered with the stillness of fresh-laid snow. "Let us peel the petals," Tywin began, voice cold as iron. "Tommen is dead. The people grieve. The Queen Regent accuses House Tyrell. Do you deny the charge?" His eyes speared Olenna. The Queen of Thorns folded her hands atop her cane. "I deny the discourtesy of such bluntness. Had we wanted to topple the realm, we need not murder a child. We would simply stop feeding King's Landing." She smiled, brittle as frost. "But here we sit, extending our roses even as your lions bare teeth." "Roses can conceal daggers," Cersei snarled from the doorway. Her dress hung rumpled, hair unbrushed. She had not slept, would not sleep again, perhaps, until vengeance lay cooling at her feet. "As can lions their claws," Olenna returned. Tywin's fist struck the table. "Enough. This is not a market squabble. My grandson's corpse lies in the September of Baelor. We will find the poisoner." "Begin with your cupbearers," Tyrion suggested mildly. or with your apothecaries or the half-dozen alchemists who sell death by the dram. Poison is a coward's weapon, father, but cowards abound. Cersei's gaze narrowed. You sound almost pleased, little brother. I am merely alive, Tyrion replied. That is pleasure enough. Tywin cut across them. The city is tinder. We must douse rumor before it lights every alleyway. The Tyrell supply trains will continue. The crown will settle its debts. Promptly. He skewered Olenna with another stare. And your granddaughter will stand beside Joffrey at the grain market today. Visible proof that Tyrell loyalty has not wavered. Olenna dipped her chin. We are ever the realm's faithful gardeners. Tyrion raised his cup in ironic salute. And gardeners know, sometimes the healthiest fertilizer is blood. Cersei's lip curled, but Tywin's glare stilled any retort. He dismissed the council with a gesture, yet as the others filed out, he trapped Olenna's wrist in a grip that belied his years. If I learn you played a part, he whispered, breath warm with threat, no thorn will spare you. She met him glare for glare. If I had played a part, Lord Tywin, you would not yet know it. And by the time you did, you would be too busy burying grandchildren to care. He released her, eyes aflame. It was near midday when the first raven reached Dragonstone. By then, smoke from the grain fires had turned King's Landing's sky the color of bruised peach. Small folk choked on cinder dust and fear. Marjorie stood atop the Honeywine balcony, flanked by two sworn shields, as Joffrey hurled bread at the crowd below, laughing each time the hungry masses squabbled. She forced a smile, lips aching. Myrcella, returned from Sunspear months earlier under a truce now ruinously thin, stood near her brother with haunted eyes. The crowds. Mood shifted, darkened. Somewhere a stone flew. It clipped a guard's helm, rang like a bell. Crossbows appeared atop walls, arrows notched. Olenna watched from behind a curtain, mind racing. Joffrey was a match dancing over oil. Tommen's memory had gilded him martyr-pure in the people's hearts. Joffrey's mockery tarnished the hunger they felt. One more spark, and flames would leap the mud gate. She whispered to her maid. Moments later, a cart trundled into the square bearing cauldrons of leek soup. Marjorie seized the ladle herself. The crowd's rage faltered, traded for bewildered gratitude as steaming bowls passed from Tyrell guards to calloused hands. Joffrey stood aghast. His betrothed stooped to feed beggars? Unthinkable. He thrust a loaf toward Marjorie, demanding she feed him first, like a king. She offered him the largest slice, kissed his cheek, and the watchers cheered. Not for him, but for her. Joffrey's scowl deepened. Olenna noted the tremor in his jaw and filed it away as she would any other weapon. Evening draped itself across the city with a strangler's patience. The Red Keep bristled under double guard. Torches spit sparks along walkways smelling of pitch and sweat. Cersei retreated to her solar, clutching Tommen's kitten as though it were the boy's ghost. She forgot to feed it. It mewled mournfully until a maid smuggled it milk. Nearby, Joffrey demanded tales of his own birth, of battles fought in his name. When his mother's voice cracked, he stormed away, leaving shattered goblets in his wake. Down in a vaulted cellar, Tyrion met with Varys amid casks of Dornish red. The spider's whispers had yielded several suspects, but none so promising as the serving girl with crooked teeth who had vanished at midday. She had family in Flea Bottom. Tyrion dispatched Bronn before midnight with a purse of silver and orders to bring her alive, softly, or as softly as a sellsword could. He also sent a message to the House of Black and White through channels learned during darker days. Two paths, confession or silence. One would speak. Olenna, in turn, penned a second letter, shorter than the first, to Doran Martell. Its contents were 10 words long. What we both love must not be ruled by lions. She left it and signed. Let the hand of the mountains decide which prickling of his conscience it soothed. The night wore on. In a chamber high in the maiden vault, Marjorie lay awake listening to the sea wind hammer against shutters. The bed at her side felt too wide, the air too still. Tommen's laugh echoed, stubborn. It would not fade. When at last sleep crept in, It carried not dreams but the metallic scent of blood mixed with crushed violets. She woke gasping, heart racing, certain her grandmother stood nearby. Yet the room was empty save for moonlight pooling like milk along the floorboards. Far below, a bell tolled. One beat, too distant and hollow. She pressed fingers to her lips and prayed it did not sound for hope. Dawn again, and ravens multiplied upon the rookery's perches until their croaks drowned the horizon. Letters flew. Condolences heavy with hypocrisy. Threats disguised as laments. Opportunistic offers from houses whose banners had faded during Robert's reign. Some sought to wed daughters to Joffrey. The widow's bed favored quick replacements. Others pledged swords against the Tyrell menace, hoping for a slice of Reach granaries. The crown's coffers, drained by Lannister gold loans and wartime levies, jangled emptily whenever Cersei ordered new uniforms for the city watch. Whispers of a debtor's revolt slithered through taverns. Olenna convened the Tyrell household knights. She spoke not of vengeance but of soil. How the Reach would wither if its grain rotted in storehouses while the capital starved. She promised that the Iron Bank recognized hunger more acutely than loyalty, and both would soon measure the crown's worth. She instructed riders to Highgarden, to Old Town, to the Arbor. Let supply wagons inch slower. Not stopped, merely delayed, audited, inspected. Enough for the small folk to taste scarcity. Enough to remind the lions how sharp a rose's thorn might feel when pressed to the belly. Loras, flushed with grief and rage, begged to challenge Joffrey to single combat for honor. Olenna slapped him, lightly, firmly, and told him honor had slain better men. She needed him alive to lead, to bloom in soil watered by patience. He left, fuming but chastised. On the third night, Bronn returned. His cloak smelled of alley mud and cheap ale. He dragged the serving girl by the wrist. Her teeth chattered louder than chamber pots at dawn. Tyrion dismissed the cell's word with coin and wine, then eyed the girl. Your name? P. Petra M. Lord. You served which table? Tich throne room dais, M. Lord. And you saw what? Her knees shook. Lady with thorns, M. Lord. She gave me coin. Told me to place violet salts in the plums. Said it'd calm the prince's nerves. She sobbed. Didn't know it was poison. Swear it. Tyrion's stomach clenched. Confirmation meant nothing if it could never be spoken aloud. To accuse Olenna outright was to fracture the fragile alliance his father prized. To keep silent was to watch his sister flay half the servants in the castle. He poured the girl a cup of small beer laced with sweetness. She drank greedily. He watched until her eyelids drooped, then summoned Podrick. Take her to the black cells, he murmured. No one sees her but me. Varys emerged from a tapestry's shadow. Mercy, my lord hand? Tyrion sighed. Insurance. Tomorrow Cersei will demand a culprit. I intend to give her one. I fear she will not care whether the rope matches the crime. She never has. Cersei demanded a public trial by noon. Tywin insisted upon discretion. The city could not stomach spectacle amid famine-rumored whispers. Yet Cersei's grief mutated into fury. She would have blood poured like wine. The small council, cornered, chose compromise. A private tribunal in the throne room, witnesses limited to nobility and the faith. Cersei acquiesced, if only to expedite vengeance. At sunrise, guards escorted Petra before the Iron Throne. She trembled, bruised wrists shackled. Tyrion presented her confession, signed with a shaking hand. Petra named an unnamed sponsor, with roses sewn upon her sleeves. Olenna watched, expression unreadable. Marjorie's cheeks blanched, yet she held her grandmother's hand beneath her sleeve. Joffrey leaned forward, eyes glittering. Hang her, he crowed. Drag her from the walls so the crows might nibble her eyes. Cersei nodded, lips curled in savage relief. Tyrion breathed out, a delicate cloud of regret. Petra sagged, a rag doll awaiting the pyres. Olenna's cane clicked against marble. She stepped forward. A trial demands balance. I request the right to question this assassin. Her voice carried like steel across water. Cersei spat. You've no standing. House Tyrell stands accused by implication. She raised a brow. Unless crown justice has grown so feeble it shrinks from daylight. Tywin cut in. Let her speak.
Olenna approached Petra.
Child, where were you born? Salt pans, my lady. And how came you to the royal kitchens? I followed a cook. Promised work. Which cook? Master Giles. Olenna turned to Tyrion. Master Giles, she repeated. A man in service to the crown for 20 years. Present. A lanky pot-bellied man stepped forward, wiping flour from his cap. Fear glazed his eyes. Olenna asked him simple questions. Where he was when Tommen collapsed in the scullery, who oversaw fruit preparations, a royal taster from Crakehall. Whether any Tyrell servants handled the plums, none. Tyrell supplied roses, not fruit. Each answer pried a brick from Cersei's certainty. At last, Olenna spoke to the High Septon. I invoke the mother's mercy. Let the girl confess again upon holy ground, free of duress. Should her story remain true, my granddaughter and I will accept any judgment the crown deems fit. But should it crack? You stall, Cersei raged. Enough talk. A confession stands. Tyrion looked from mother to father. Tywin's lips pressed thin. He did not enjoy public uncertainty. Yet he nodded reluctantly. The High Septon agreed. Petra would be taken to the September of Baelor. Confession repeated under the 7 statues. Cersei cursed them all. Joffrey snarled, kicking a pyxis from the steps. The proceedings adjourned. Petra, sobbing, was led away by silent sisters. That night, she was found hanging in her cell, a strip of linen wrapped thrice around her throat. The silent sisters swore they left no cloth inside. The jailer swore he checked every hour. The gold cloaks shrugged, suicides were common. Tyrion stalked the dungeon hall, fury gnawing his gut. Above, in her chamber, Olenna burned a length of linen in the hearth and watched the ashes swirl. Mercy was a kindness. Michaelmas geese fattened on lesser guilt. The ripple of Petra's death traveled quickly, as Olenna intended. To the small folk, it proved Cersei's cruelty. To the Dowager Queen, it proved guilt. Tyrion saw only a corpse that answered nothing. In council, Tywin ordered the city gates closed. No one would leave until the poisoner was found. Grain stores fell as spoons met bowls. Fear spread with the hunger. In the Guildhall of Alchemists, Qyburn prepared new remedies for unrest, vats of wildfire buried beneath hay bales. Their glow tainted the catacombs an eerie green. Marjorie visited the orphanage near Visenya's Hill. She handed out loaves still warm. Children touched her fingers as though expecting them to bleed gold. Even Joffrey's Kingsguard could not pry her away. The small folk shielded her with their bodies. Whispered prayers named her Our Lady of Mercy. Olenna, in secret correspondence, sent word to her son to ready Highgarden's host. The crown might demand hostages. The Reach would answer in steel. In a tavern across the Blackwater, Sansa Stark heard Tommen's fate from a minstrel's sad refrain. She remembered the boy's bashful smile, the kitten's claws pricking his arm, and tears welled unbidden. Beside her, Ser Dantos gulped wine. Bad business, he muttered. His eyes darted toward the river where a galley waited, candlelit. But opportunity flows from every dead prince. Sansa felt no opportunity, only sorrow thick as mud. Yet somewhere behind that sorrow flickered a dangerous spark. If Tommen could die, anyone could, even kings on iron thrones. Olenna stood before Marjorie's mirror combing silver hair that night, though her hands shook for the first time in years. She met her granddaughter's gaze in the glass. It was not supposed to end so loudly, she said. I meant to shield him, to shield you. Marjorie's voice broke. You meant to shield our rose from Joffrey's frost. Olenna nodded. Then why does his cold linger in every hallway? Because frost, once released, devours warmth until the sun returns. We must become the sun, child. Marjorie touched her grandmother's cheek. What if the sun sets? Then we light fires. The fires began 5 days after Tommen's death. First, a granary near the dragon pit. torched by rioters who blamed Lannisters for the shortage. Then, flea-bottom cookshops burned. Some claimed Tyrell agents did it to widen hunger. Others blamed gold cloaks spurred by Cersei to punish dissent. By the 7th day, corpses clogged the alleys. Septons smoldered funeral pyres on the rush. The river ran brackish with ash. Joffrey demanded reprisals. Cersei seconded him. Tywin, cornered, commanded the river gates open to allow fresh grain barges. But the Reach's shipments tarried. Dornish oranges rotted at harbors for want of casks. In small council, Tyrion argued for diplomacy. Cersei spat at the word. Varys observed silently, fat hands folded like doves. On the 10th day, the rebel called the Weeper strung 6 gold cloaks from the Street of Flower with placards. For Tommen the Gentle, small folk cheered. Cersei erected gallows in retribution. Marjorie secretly sent healing drafts to the injured. Her name passed lips like a prayer. Olenna demanded one last audience with Tywin. He met her in a dim corridor flanked by unfinished tapestries. "You come to confess?" She shook her head. "I come to bargain." Tywin's nostrils flared. "You hold no cards." "I hold the grain," she replied, "and the queen the people love." Tywin glanced away. "Love is wind. Grain can be bought. Not quickly enough." Olenna leaned on her cane. "Joffrey is your blood. He will not survive the winter with famine at his gates and fire in his halls." Tywin studied her, weighed steel and silk until moonlight thinned upon the floor. At last he spoke. "What would you have?" "Time," she said, "and a quieter solution." He nodded once, the movement barely visible. "Find your solution. I will give you 1 moon's turn. If peace has not returned by then, I will raise the Reach from Bitterbridge to Old Oak." Olenna bowed. She allowed herself a breath of relief only after his steps faded. 1 month, 30 days to tame a beast she had unleashed. She touched the pendant at her throat, a carved rose of jade. Tommen's innocent smile haunted its petals. She whispered his name like penance. Beyond the city walls, banners gathered. The Tyrell sigil rippled beside one new to the fields of war. A golden crown atop a white heart, ringed by black thorns. Soldiers whispered it belonged to Prince Renly's memory, revived by Reach zeal. In the Kingswood, Baratheon loyalists who still believed in a gentle stag stirred from hiding. Southward, the Dornish road echoed with hoofbeats. Allies or avengers, no one yet knew. Inside King's Landing, a famine of trust devoured any hope of easy peace. And in the quiet hour before dawn on the 12th day, Cersei Lannister dreamt of a boy with blonde curls and a kitten in his lap, smiling. When she reached to touch him, his eyes opened, violet like bruised petals, and his lips parted in a silent plea. She woke screaming, and the city woke with her, certain something new and terrible had begun. The tale continues, winding through tightening sieges and splintering allegiances, as Olenna Tyrell grapples with the price of pruning innocence and the realm shudders beneath the weight of a single poisoned plum. Tendrils of dawn slipped between the Red Keep's ramparts like wary spies, brushing each stone with a gray-blue hush that felt neither night nor day but some draft pause between battleground breaths. The city below slept fitfully. Windows shuttered, braziers guttered low. Beggars curled like parchment along walls that still radiated the memory of yesterday's fires. The air reeked of scorched grain and old blood, overlaid by the faint copper tang of salt carried upriver from Blackwater Bay. In that in-between hush, a single raven flapped toward the Tower of the Hand, a ciphered missive bound to its leg. It alighted on a crenellation, hopping twice before a gauntlet fist seized it. Jaime Lannister, hair unbraided, half-buttoned tunic askew, stood barefoot on the gravel roof. For an instant he stared at the bird's beady eyes as though expecting them to hold absolution for sins both new and ancient. None came. He unfastened the parchment, fed the raven a crumb of bread filched from last night's supper, and let it fly. The parchment bore 3 lines scrawled in a cramped, slanting hand he recognized from the battle maps of Riverrun. Supply lines breached at Bitterbridge, Reach banners massing. 1 month, no more. Below, Lord Tywin's lion sigil snarled in red wax. Jaime folded the note, slid it beneath his belt, and cast his gaze across the awakening city. Smoke still smoldered along the Street of Sisters, a black seam hemming rooftops. Near the Dragon Pit, pickets in Tyrell green and gold faced Lannister crimson across a barricade of overturned carts. No swords drawn yet. He thought of Catelyn Stark's cool warning years ago at Riverrun, that oaths were seeds whose fruit might rot unseen for seasons until the day of harvest. The harvest had come. Behind him, bootsteps sounded on the stair. Tyrion emerged, wrapped in a heavy cloak despite the summer warmth, eyes sharp with the sleepless clarity of men who negotiate disaster by candlelight. He gave his brother a wry nod. Father's handwriting is neater when he's angry, wouldn't you say? Jaime flapped the folded parchment. He wants a solution before hunger drives the city to flay us for marrow. Father always wants solutions. He never much enjoys the questions. Tyrion followed Jaime's gaze toward the river. Last night 3 grain ships tried to run the blockade. One burned before it could dock. The other 2 surrendered their cargo to reach soldiers posted half a league downriver. Smart captains. Dead men earn no coin. So we starve while roses bloom. Not we, Tyrion corrected. The small folk. We lions will dine until the last crumbs scraped from the table, then blame the cook for famine. Jaime exhaled, breath-stirring gold hair. You searched Olenna's chambers? Every drawer save the one in her heart. Tyrion's shrug was stiff. Pages half-scribbled with horticultural notes, letters to septas in the reach, an ivory box of sweet sleep for her joints. No strangler petals, no incriminating vials. If she orchestrated Tommen's death, she buried her tracks beneath a mountain of rose perfume. Jaime tapped the parapet. And the girl, very dead and very convenient. A flicker of regret folded Tyrion's face. Petra's confession named no one clearly. Mother will cling to that shred. It lets her fashion any enemy she pleases. His gaze dropped to the courtyard below where Cersei's black-armored honor guard assembled. She means to ride through every district this morning. Show strength. She asked me to accompany her. I declined. She'll remember that. She remembers every slight. But the crowd's mood is tinder. Joffrey will go, of course. He hungers for cheers he won't receive. Jaime spared a glance toward the White Sword Tower rising pale beside the Great Hall. The Kingsguard are divided. Ser Balon will escort Joffrey anywhere, even into wildfire. Boros Blunt quakes at whispers. Adam Marbrand claims a fever to avoid the city tour. And Loras Tyrell, he trailed off. Loras despises Joffrey now, but duty binds him. Tyrion's mouth quirked. Duty is a brittle chain. I wonder how long before it snaps. Footfalls echoed again, lighter, quicker. Ser Podrick climbed into view, face flushed. My lord, the master of ships requests your presence on the river walk. Says something about barrels washing ashore. Barrels? Tyrion frowned. Black with green sigils. Pod supplied, swallowing. Wildfire. Tyrion's blood chilled. He turned to Jaime. Our alchemists have lost some of their toys, and wildfire washing ashore never bodes well. Jaime brushed a hand through his hair. Find the leaks. I'll calm the Kingsguard. Pray we're in time. Tyrion tugged his cloak tighter. Prayer costs nothing. Very little else in this city still does. He clapped Podrick's shoulder and descended. Jaime watched the small form vanish, felt the wind's teeth nip at his bare ankles. Somewhere to the west, a bell rang 3 slow notes, the clarified chime of the great September summoning mourners for Tommen's dawn rite. He pictured Cersei kneeling by their son's bier, hair unbound, eyes varnished with rum-red grief. He pictured Joffrey yawning through the prayers. Ash. He pictured Olenna's stillness, like a gardener observing a weed she'd known would sprout. The world shifted its pieces, and Jaime felt suddenly that no sword could carve a straight path through a labyrinth built of grief and hunger. He padded back toward the stair, the stone biting cold into his soles. Ground level was a hive crawling with purpose. Servants lugged sacks of sawdust toward the throne room. Spilled wine and worse would litter the floors today. Red cloaks barked orders at kitchen boys who pushed handcarts of black bread gone stale overnight. Above, ravens wheeled, croaking warnings only fools ignored. Jaime crossed the yard to the White Sword Tower. Inside, marble floors gleamed. Ser Loras polished his breastplate at a table, eyes red-rimmed. The Kingsguard white cloak draped his shoulders like pennants. He looked up, jaw tight.
Ser Loras, Jaime greeted.
You join the Queen on her tour? My duty. The words came iron-flaked. Tommen was a gentle soul. The city loved him. If they mean to see us as butchers, I'll face their hate with bare helm. Jaime considered the younger knight. A crowd's hate spares no armor. Keep your sword sheathed. Joffrey will provoke them soon enough. Joffrey is the king. Jaime pressed lips thin. A king's life is precious, until his people decide otherwise. He nodded toward the hall. Ride close to him. Protect him from stones and his own tongue. Loras's brow furrowed. You speak treason. I speak caution. Jaime strapped on a plain steel pauldron, the closest armorer's rack offered. His golden hand glinted. I'll remain by the Queen's litter. Pray I can restrain her wrath if the crowd jeers. Loras slid his sword into its scabbard. Pray for all of us. They parted wordless understanding. At the stable yard, horses stamped against straw. Grooms whispered reassurances. Cersei's litter, lacquered black, awaited bearers. She emerged moments later draped in mourning sable, hair wild. Purple circles ringed her eyes. Joffrey strutted beside her in crimson velvet, antlered crown perched like a predator upon his brow. He twirled Widow's wail, slicing air with playful menace, scattering stable dust onto servants' cloaks. My prince, Jaime said, bowing. Joffrey sneered. Uncle, come to sermonize? Mother preaches enough for both of you. Cersei's hand clasped Joffrey's shoulder. Ignore his japes, Jaime. The city will pay tribute or bleed. Her voice rasped raw, a whetstone stripped of faith. She lifted into the litter. Joffrey mounted a pale destrier, silk reins threaded with rubies. Kingsguard formed rank. Loras Tyrell rode at Joffrey's right, Ser Balon at left. Jaime swung atop a bay gelding, trailing the litter. They passed through the red keep gates. The capital opened before them like a festering wound. Streets scarred by flame, doorways boarded, haggard faces peering from alleys. Word of the procession had spread. Crowds gathered, some bearing black ribbons for mourning, others empty-handed save hard eyes. Bells tolled from the sept, but few bowed. Joffrey's scowl deepened. They reached Cobbler's Square. Smothered embers still smoked where bakery stalls had burned.
Cersei signaled halt.
Bearers lowered her litter. She stepped onto soot-dust flagstones, lifted her chin. People of King's Landing, she cried. Throats murmured, but the reply was not fealty. It was hunger. Pebble flew, striking a guard's helm. Another followed, skipping across Cersei's sleeve. She clenched fists. Joffrey reined forward. Who dares? His voice cracked with adolescent fury. Kneel. None did. In the ripple of silence, someone coughed out a single word. Bread. The murmur spread. Bread, bread for Tommen. A girl no older than 7 hoisted a ragged doll, its cloth crown askew. The gentle prince fed us, she called. Will this king do the same? Joffrey raised Widow's wail. Jaime's shout, sheathe, drowned beneath cheers as the girl's cry galvanized the throng. They surged. Guards locked shields, but hunger lent courage sharper than steel. Stones rattled off breastplates. A rotten apple burst against Joffrey's sleeve, dripping pulp. His face purpled. He drew back the sword. Loras's hand shot out, catching his wrist. Sheathe it. The Knight of Flowers hissed. Unhand me. Do not provoke them. Joffrey's free hand swung, striking Loras across the cheek. Gasps hissed like steam. The sword slipped from Loras's grip. He recoiled yet held firm. Your Grace, he began, but the crowd's roar swelled. A cobblestone whistled past, smashing into Widow's wails flat. The blade veered, carving a shallow line along Joffrey's horse's flank. The destrier screamed, reared. The king toppled. Chaos detonated. Guards thrust pikes. Civilians scrambled. Jaime leapt from his gelding, dragged Joffrey to his feet. Blood dribbled from the king's split lip. "Home now?" Jaime urged, pushing Joffrey toward the litter. Cersei stretched arms, frantic, but the tide swallowed them. Loras shielded Joffrey with his body, taking blows meant for the crown. A stone clipped his helm, he staggered. Balon Cray took a knife between ribs, bellowed, fought on. From a side street Marjorie appeared, flanked by Tyrell retainers bearing sacks of rye loaves. She waded into the crush, thrusting bread forward. "For Tommen!" she cried. The effect was instant, as if the crowd inhaled a collective breath. Scrabbling hands reached for loaves. Quarrels flared, but hunger overcame anger. Jaime seized the respite to shove Joffrey into Cersei's litter. Bearers lurched forward. Arrows clattered on rooftops behind as City Watch reinforcements arrived. Marjorie's guards shielded her until the litter vanished. She handed the last loaf to a toothless woman clutching an infant, then bowed her head. Cheers rose for the Rose Queen, washing over the square like balm upon blistered flesh. Yet amid the cheers, Marjorie's eyes glittered with panic. She, too, had seen Joffrey's unchecked wrath, and she knew such fury never slept long. Inside the Red Keep, Maester Franken, Pycelle's newest protege, dabbed wine-soaked cloth to Joffrey's cut lip. The king slapped him away. "Leave it!" Cersei paced, cloak swishing. Her voice sprang brittle. "They dared attack the king. They were hungry," Jaime said quietly. "Hunger does not excuse treason." She swung on Loras. "Why did you restrain him? He is the king." Loras, helm removed, bruise blooming across cheekbone, bowed stiffly. "Your Grace, I prevented riot from becoming massacre. My son's dignity was trampled." "So were your people," Jaime muttered. Cersei's eyes blazed at him. Joffrey spat blood. "I'll hang 100, 200. He lurched to his feet. "I'll burn their hovels, feed their children to dogs." "The dogs are hungry too," Tyrion observed from doorway, arriving with Varys in tow. "Perhaps start with a baker. The dogs prefer bread." Joffrey's glare could sour milk. "Uncle Dwarf," he hissed. Tyrion crossed arms. "Your Grace, you rule starving subjects. Threats taste as hollow as their bellies." He glanced at Cersei. "Withdraw the levies on small folk bread. Reopen the grain stores. Ration fairly, and the storm may pass." Cersei laughed, a sound like glass snapping. "You counsel surrender. I counsel survival." Tywin entered then, steel gliding in his stride. He surveyed broken lips, bruised cheeks, scattered armor, saw the fraying thread of realm's order. Enough! One word cleaved arguments. He faced Joffrey. "You will dine in public tonight, share bread with the faith, distribute alms to the orphanages. The Tyrells will oversee grain dispersal. The crown owes its people protection. Deny it and they will seek new protection." Joffrey's jaw worked. Recognition of Tywin's authority warred with pride. At last he muttered, "As you command, Lord Hand." Tywin turned to Loras. "Sire, your valor is noted. You will accompany his grace tonight. Ensure he sheds blood only of roasted fowl." Loras bowed. Cersei sputtered but held her tongue. Tywin's glare promised no leniency. Jaime exhaled. Varys stepped forward, voice smooth as satin. "If I may, my lords, rumor spreads that wildfire barrels drift the river. Panic could spark if left unaddressed." Tywin's gaze sharpened. "Find the source. Should any alchemist be complicit, their guild hall will answer with flesh." Varys inclined his bald head. "As you wish." Across the river at dusk, a warehouse disguised as barrelmaker's shop bustled with illicit life. Hooded men rolled casks bearing false sigils of Myrish olive oil. Within, thin seams glowed ghostly green where staves misaligned. Qyburn supervised, eyes fever-bright. "Gentle, my friends," he whispered. Wildfire punishes folly. Nearby, a scroll spread across a crate showed the city's tunnel network. Red circles marked each intended blast. In the largest circle, the September of Baylor loomed. Outside, a urchin observed through knothole. Her bare feet gripped mud, breath shallow. Moments later, she slipped away beneath yawning barges, skirting torchlight, heading for the docks where Tyrell soldiers patrolled. By moonrise, the informant known as Little Thistle knelt before Ser Garland Tyrell, recounting her discovery in halting bursts. Garland tipped a silver stag into her palm, sent 2 riders to warn the hand. Meanwhile, Olenna Tyrell sat alone in her solar, scratching parchment, a ledger of grain, seeds, and casualties compiled by her agents. Each line etched a kingdom's slow hemorrhage. A candle sputtered, wax pooled like tears. She paused, hearing a rap at the door. Enter. Marjorie stepped in, dust on skirts. I shimmered. I tried to feed them, she whispered. It helped, but Joffrey, his face when they jeered. Grandmother, he will kill them all if we do not stop him. Olenna set Quill aside. Then we must prune again. Marjorie flinched. Another death will break the realm. Maybe it will mend it. Olenna's voice softened. I underestimated public grief. Tommen's innocence made him beloved. That love now yearns for a new vessel. We cannot give them Joffrey, nor Myrcella. She's but a girl, and Cersei would smother her benevolence. Another line of Baratheon blood stands, though. Stannis, too stern, too distant, but his daughter Shireen, she has a gentle soul. If Stannis pressed his claim with reach support, we could wed Shireen to some pliant lord, soften the iron of Dragonstone. Olenna's fingertips drummed, but too many moves ahead. First, we must keep King's Landing from devouring itself. Tonight Joffrey will play philanthropist, ensure it succeeds, charm the crowds, soothe his ego. A single misstep and the city may ignite. Marjorie knelt by her grandmother's chair. No more children must die. Olenna stroked her hair. I will try, my sweet. Yet remember, gardens flourish upon buried seed. Death is the first gardener. Night seeped into courtyards, turning torches into wavering halos. At the great September, flickering candles lined marble steps. A long trestle table stretched across the square, laden with trenchers of barley soup, salted cod, onions stewed in ale. Joffrey sat center on a raised platform beside Marjorie. He wore a softer expression, though his knee jiggled with impatience. Loras stood behind him, helm shadowing bruised cheek. Septons chanted somber hymns. Small folk queued for food, eyes wary but thankful. Jaime lingered at edge, cloaked. Tyrion approached, carrying a ledger. 1,000 loaves, 500 bowls of soup. Enough until morning, he muttered. A tide cannot be dammed with one stone. True, but stones pile quickly if you work at it. Tyrion's gaze swept the crowd. See the buckets near the priests? Filled with coin, mostly copper but some silver. Small folk repay generosity with devotion. Jaime nodded, yet his hand drifted to sword hilt. Something felt wrong. The air too still. Then he heard it. Distant thunder where no clouds brooded. Horses? No. A low, roaring chant. He scanned rooftops, nothing. But the sound grew. A messenger sprinted into torchlight, breathless. My lord! Riot at the river gate. Wildfire barrels found. Crowds seized alchemists, dragging them this way. Jaime's blood iced. He shoved through throng, reaching platform. We must withdraw the king. Now. Cersei, seated one tier below Joffrey, snapped, Cowardice again? Wildfire, sister. Even a spark. Her retort died as a roar broke over square. A mob surged from Ironmaker's Way bearing torches and 2 bound figures in green robes. Alchemists, terror-struck. Behind the men rolled a barrel leaking eerie jade light. Chants seethed. Justice for Tommen. Burn the poisoners. Joffrey sprang up, thrilling at chaos. Excellent. Bring them forward, he shouted. Your Grace, Marjorie whispered, white-knuckled. Let the hand handle this. Jaime drew his sword. Guards, form a cordon. Gold cloaks raced, but the mob splintered their line, torrenting toward dais. Smoke from blazing torches curled skyward. The leaking barrel tipped, ooze of wildfire pooling luminous on cobbles. Sparks leapt from torches, skittering toward the liquid like eager moths. Tyrion vaulted onto table, voice a bullhorn. Back! Douse your fires! His cry swallowed by uproar. He snatched a ladle, flung barley soup at the glowing puddle. A hiss steam, but flames licked higher. Alchemists shrieked as captors shoved them into muck. One torch tumbled, time slowed. The flame-kissed wildfire erupted with primal fury. An emerald column roared heavenward. Shockwaves slammed outward. Small folk guards septons hurled like toys. The dais shuddered. Timbers groaned. Jaime tackled Joffrey, rolling beneath table as fireball streaked sky. Marjorie pounced upon a nearby child, shielding him. Loras flung cloak over them both. Wildfire tongues battered pillars, melting banners. Screams knifed the night. A second barrel rolled free, moaned as its lid popped. Another gout ignited, painting shadows hellish green. Tyrion crawled through debris, coughing. He glimpsed Cersei sprawled beneath fallen beam, dress smoldering. He dragged her clear, smacking flames with cloak. She stirred, eyes wild. "Joffrey! Alive!" he rasped. Across square, wildfire splashed against Sept stairs. Statues cracked, molten shards spitting. Bells clanged alarm. City watch poured from side streets with sand barrels, but sand only fueled the chemical demon. Panic spiraled. People trampled each other, blinded by green radiance. Above, stone visage of the mother fissured. With a thunderous groan, it toppled, smashing into courtyard just beside the wildfire pool. Debris scattered, sending sparks. By chance or blessing, the collapse smothered much of the flame, burying green sludge under rubble. Fires sputtered, dimmed, smoking fiercely. Silence after cacophony felt deafening. Soot drifted like black snow. Survivors groaned, coughed. Jaime rose, half-deaf. He pulled Joffrey upright. The king's cloak singed, face streaked with ash but unharmed. Loras helped Marjorie stand, the child still clinging to her skirts. They shared a shaken glance. Tyrion joined, supporting Cersei. Blood dripped from his brow. "Was this your justice tour, sister?" he panted. Cersei's eyes shimmered, but not with tears. "They tried to burn us. They nearly succeeded." Jaime surveyed charred bodies, some robed in alchemist green, others common folk. Wildfire in the crowd. It had a purpose. Tyrion wiped soot. Someone wanted this to happen. Someone who knows wildfire frightens both lion and rose. Varys appeared like a pale ghost. Little birds report Qyburn missing from his laboratory. "Find him," Tywin commanded, striding from shadows with red cloak unsinged, surrounded by force-sworn bodyguards. How long he'd observed none knew. His gaze raked devastation, then fixed upon the king. "Enough charity. We impose order." Order meant iron. At sunrise, gallows sprouted along the walk of punishment. Alchemists dragged from cells were hanged, their green robes replaced with burlap upon which wildfire glyphs were carved in blood. Qyburn remained vanished. Gold cloaks herded small folk indoors. Curfew set at dusk. Bread lines resumed under armed watch. Rumor claimed the Queen of Thorns had engineered the explosion to frame Lannisters. Equally loud were claims Cersei had staged it to justify slaughter. Truth tangled and strangled itself by noon. Olenna paced her solar, reading fresh reports. Losses heavy, but Tyrell men within the crowd saved dozens. Witnesses praised Marjorie's bravery. Songs sprouted. A silver lining, but wildfire threatened to reduce all threads to cinder. She ground teeth. A knock. Garland entered, escorting Varys. "My lady," the spider purred, bowing. "I regret dark hour visits, but our choice is narrow. Speak plainly, Lord Varys. You trade in shadows. We stand in one." He folded hands. Qyburn dipped deep into pyromancer vaults. 30 barrels accounted for, 12 used or destroyed, 18 remain hidden. Garland swore. Olenna felt her pulse drum.
You propose alliance. I propose survival.
Wildfire respects none. I have leads, dockworkers, black market scribes, but need reach beyond the red keep suspicion. Your house employs many sailors. Discreet eyes on every pier could save thousands. Olenna studied him. And what coin buys the spider's gratitude? Merely a whisper in return. Varys's smile never reached eyes. When you learn who funds Qyburn, tell me first. She signaled assent. Varys bowed out. Garland exhaled. Can we trust him? Trust is a stale loaf we chew because no fresh bread remains. He'll betray us when it profits him, same as any power broker. Yet wildfire burns profit to ash. She rubbed temples. Deploy our eyes. Offer bread to dockworkers, coin to ferrymen. Sift rumor like flour. And send riders to Bitterbridge, escort our grain convoys. If Tywin rattles his sword, we answer with our plow. That afternoon Jaime found himself summoned to the throne room. Sunbeams slanted through stained glass now cracked by last night's concussion. Motes of dust floated like specters. Tywin stood before the Iron Throne, alone save for 2 scribes. He gestured Jaime close. I need River Springs secured, Tywin said without preamble. A minor fief, but its docks anchor the grain route from Maidenpool. Bandits strike caravans weekly. Jaime nodded. Send Gregor Clegane. River Spring will surrender without fight. Clegane is a brute. His presence will convince the small folk we intend massacre. I need a knight who can inspire loyalty, not dread. Tywin's gaze bored into Jaime. You will ride. Take 200 men. Secure docks. Repair garrison. Reopen river patrol. Fly Lannister banners of protection. Jaime inclined head. I ride within the hour. Tywin's voice lowered. If you encounter Qyburn or any man in pyromancer livery, capture alive. Their secrets interest me. Jaime met his father's stare. Secrets always had. He saluted and turned. As he walked the aisle, he sensed the Iron Throne's leering blades behind. Ever thirsty, ever patient. Outside city walls, Tyrell scouts spied smoke rising from the Kingswood. They found a charred wagon, its axles melted, a crater of fused green glass at center. No bodies, only burned horse bones. A parchment scrap fluttered, half-singed, bearing a single sigil. A black hand grasping a red flame, the moniker of Qyburn. Scouts gathered shards. One, long as a dagger yet transparent emerald, pulsed with inner glow though cold to touch. They wrapped it in tar cloth and sped to camp where Lord Mace devoured. Roast capon. He listened, grease on chin, then waved for Maester. Messages penned, ravens dispatched to Highgarden, to Old Town, to Riverrun. War or alliance? None could yet say. On Dragonstone, Shireen Baratheon traced finger along the painted table's sprawling map, pausing over King's Landing. The small folk there suffer, father. Stannis rubbed his bearded jaw. Small folk always suffer. Must they? Her grayscale cheek flushed. The Seven spared me. Might we spare them? Stannis's eyes softened a flicker. A king spares none. Justice weighs heavy. Mercy weighs hearts heavier. She looked to Davos Seaworth standing candlelit nearby. He gave a small nod. Stannis sighed. We cannot march. Supplies thin. The Iron Bank presses. Yet, if King's Landing cannot feed itself, Davos stepped forward. Ships from Lys offer grain for silver. Sail them under Baratheon banners. Deliver food to Blackwater Bay. Feed the people. They'll recall the stag that filled their bowls when the lion and Rose argued. Stannis's gaze hardened with resolve. Do it. He turned to Shireen. You have your mercy. See it repaid. Shireen smiled, a fragile sunrise. At Bitterbridge 1 week later, Jaime's column clattered across Drawbridge. The town reeked of damp straw and river muck. Garrison absent, docks deserted, warehouses padlocked. At opposite bank, tents in Tyrell colors clustered, scouts from Highgarden convoy waiting for word. Jaime met their steward on midpoint of bridge. Parley measured in polite steel glances. "We secure these docks for the realm," Jaime announced. "The grain is Reach property," steward replied. "King's Landing pays fair price. Price matters less than trust. Trust grows when stomachs fill. Let our ships through. Your coffers will bloom." Steward conferred with riders. Eventually they yielded. Convoys under joint guard, half Lannister, half Tyrell, would sail at dawn. Jaime exhaled. One artery unclogged. That night he stood on rampart overlooking Moonsilver River. A gull cried. Footsteps approached. Ser Loras emerged from shadows. "Riding as messenger," he said. "Marjorie asked I escort first barges." Jaime nodded. "Your cheek mends. It will scar." Loras's smile held faint rue. "Remind me love holds daggers." "Love's daggers cut deepest," Jaime murmured. Loras leaned on parapet. "Joffrey grows more volatile. Marrying him was once strategy. Now it's a nest of vipers." "I know." Wind tugged Jaime's cloak. "Strategy shifts." Loras eyed him. "When the day comes, Kingsguard vows bind you to crown, not king. Remember that." Jaime's jaw clenched. "I remember everything." Back in King's Landing, Tyrion and Varys traced covert paths through wine cellars, hunting rumors of hidden barrels. One torch in hand, Tyrion noted damp footprints along stone recent. They followed into disused corridor where salt air leaked. Behind a false wall they found a niche stacked with 3 casks, markings fresh. Beside lay a body. The gold-cloaked jailer John Hook, throat slit, keys stolen. Varys inhaled. Qyburn's trail. Or someone framing him. Tyrion knelt, studying cask staves. Between slats a slip of parchment. "Better to reign in ash."
No signature.
He pocketed it. "We move these to the black cells. Doubled guard. Varys-eyed puddles. Fire waits for spark. Then we douse sparks." Tyrion wiped sweat. On the 12th day after the wildfire riot, Tywin convened a grand hall assembly. Lords Tyrell, Redwyne, Hightower, Fossaway gathered, as did delegations from Stormlands and Dorne. Martell's emissary clad in desert hues. The Iron Throne sat empty save black cloth. Tywin spoke from dais. "Famine and terror threaten the realm. We stand at precipice. To secure peace, we declare the formation of a tri-council. Crown, faith, and reach, each overseeing grain, coin, and justice. Wildfire stores will be destroyed under faith supervision. Alchemists' Guild disbanded. Those who resist will be executed." Murmurs churned. Olenna's fan fluttered. Tyrion measured reactions. Dorne's emissary smirked. Reach lords whispered. Cersei's lips pinched, but Tywin's glare pinned her silent. He continued, "Furthermore, His Grace King Joffrey, advised by council, will suspend executions for riot until winter's end. Mercy now wins fealty later." The hall erupted. A mix of relief, suspicion, some applause. Joffrey scowled from side alcove, but Marjorie squeezed his hand, murmured soothing words. He folded arms yet remained quiet. Tywin concluded, "We choose bread over blade. May the 7 witness." Applause grew. Yet amid clamor, a small cloaked figure slipped behind tapestry. She crept along secret passage, clutching vial of green liquid. Qyburn's apprentice, new recruit, tasked with final duty. She whispered prayers to stranger gods, heart pounding. At passage terminus she peered through peephole into hall. The dais shimmered beyond. She uncorked vial, tilting toward torch sconce. A yelp behind, Varys's little bird tackled her. Vial fell, glass shattering. Wildfire hissed, flared but lacked volume to explode. Guards seized girl. Screams rippled. Council froze. Tywin's hand rested on dagger, but he held composure. Tyrion rushed, stamping flame with cloak. Smoke billowed. When sparks died, he stared at trembling apprentice. "Who?" he demanded. She choked out a single name, "Cersei." Hall gasped. Cersei surged to feet, denial spilling forth, but words drowned in uproar. Tywin's face blanched. "Take her to cells," he commanded. The girl dragged, sobbing, repeating accusation. Whether coerced or true, it spread like contagion. Lords exchanged calculating looks. Queen or king, which head sat looser? Night blanketed court in daggered tension. Tyrion found Jaime packing saddlebag. Leaving again? Returning to River Spring convoy. Jaime buckled strap. "But first, mother." "Bad idea." Tyrion wiped sweat. "She's cornered." "All the more reason." He strode to Cersei's chambers. Inside, she paced like caged lioness. Upon sight of Jaime, she collapsed against him, sobbing. "They accuse me. My own father." Her nails bit his tunic. "Tell me you believe me." He stroked her hair. Truth? The thorn in heart. Did he believe she ordered the apprentice? He recalled her madness, her hunger for vengeance. He could not answer. Instead, "I will protect you. Then take me away." Her eyes shone fever wild. "Us, Joffrey, Myrcella, to Casterly Rock. Let them squabble." Jaime breathed. "Father would follow. The realm needs you here. The realm can burn." She seized his golden hand. "Only family matters." He hesitated, torn by duty to crown, to father, to sister. Finally he whispered, "I will speak to father. Ask him to delay inquiry. Rest." He kissed her brow, parted. Outside, moon glared like a spiteful witness. In black cells, Qyburn's apprentice huddled. Torchlight danced on tears. Across bars, Varys observed. "Truth now saves pain later." She sniffed. "Queen promised me elevation. Said the realm required cleansing flame." "Which queen?" Varys's voice gentle. "Cersei." She gave coin, vile. She trembled. Said kill the lions who betray her. Varys sighed. "Sometimes lions devour their own pride." He beckoned gold cloaks. "Keep her safe. Testimony will weigh heavy." Morning. Bells tolled again, this time summoning tribunal. Tywin presided, High Septon beside. Joffrey absent, confined to Maegor's holdfast by Tywin's order for his safety. Cersei stood accused. Evidence. Apprentice's testimony, wildfire vial bearing royal seal, Qyburn's disappearance traced to her treasury withdrawals. She denied all, claimed Tyrell forgery. Olenna watched, quiet as spider. Tyrion addressed counsel. Guilt cannot rest on hearsay. He produced parchment found between wildfire casks. Better to reign in ash. He posited Qyburn's rogue faction sowed chaos to empower itself. Apprentice manipulated. Debate raged. High Septon proposed trial by the faith. Cersei scoffed. Tywin's face granite. Love and responsibility warring. In end, compromise. Investigation extended. Cersei confined to her chambers under guard. Council dispersed unsatisfied. That night, Tywin summoned Olenna privately. They stood by map table, drink in hand. "You orchestrated the poison," he said. Statement, not question. Olenna sipped arbor gold. "I pruned a weed. Your weed cost my grandson and the realm. Your grandson Joffrey would have cost many more." Her gaze unyielding. "I left a path for mercy. You refused to walk it." Tywin's jaw clenched. "Your granddaughter remains betrothed. Perhaps the groom should change." Olenna set goblet down. "Give the crown to Myrcella. Wed her to a Tyrell cousin. The realm adores innocence. Give them a queen unmarred." Tywin laughed without humor. "Dorne would howl. And Joffrey lives. For now. But wildfire smolders." She stepped closer. "Choose the cut that preserves the rosebush, Lord Tywin. Or keep watering with blood until thorns tear you apart." They locked eyes across gulf of strategy, two ancient predators disguised as courtiers. At last Tywin turned away. "Leave me." Olenna departed, cane tapping echo down corridor. Tywin faced map, finger tracing supply lines, troop movements, alliances dissolving like sugar in wine. He felt age heavy for first time. The lion's roar weakened when cubs ate each other. 7 days later, 3 Lysine grain galleys under Baratheon stag sails docked. Bread flooded markets. Cheers for Stannis's mercy rang. Joffrey raged behind keep walls. Marjorie visited orphanages, praising King's generosity. Though small folk credited Stag, Rose, anything but Lion. Tyrell convoys from Bitterbridge arrived escorted by Jaime's men. Poised peace hovered. Then Qyburn resurfaced. A dockside warehouse exploded at dusk, green plume tearing sky. 70 died. Qyburn captured by Reach scouts limping from blast, clothes scorched. Under torture, he named employer Queen Regent, by order to cleanse unbelievers, whether true or delirium unknown. But rumor sprinted faster than proof. Small folk marched on Red Keep. Tyrell soldiers refused to fight them. Gold cloaks wavered. Tywin convened final council. Choices stark. Sacrifice Cersei, appease rage. Defend her, invite civil war. He looked to Jaime, newly returned, dusty from Rhodes. Jaime stood silent, conflict-ravaging face. To Tyrion, whose cleverness frayed. To Olenna, expression inscrutable. To Marjorie, eyes pleading for mercy. To Joffrey, absent, beating fists on chamber door across courtyard. At last Tywin spoke. Cersei Lannister is to be remanded to Faith custody pending trial. May the Seven render judgment and balm to this bleeding realm. Words fell like heads. Jaime inhaled dagger-sharp air. Tyrion's heart thudded. Olenna closed eyes a heartbeat, then bowed. Marjorie exhaled tremulous breath. In halls outside, gold cloaks marched toward Queen's chambers. Cersei, hearing boots, smashed mirror, grasped shard. Jaime burst through before guards. Face streaked with tears, she thrust shard toward throat. He caught her wrists, blood beading his palm. "Please," he whispered. "Trust me." She stared, broken. Guards closed in. Jaime gently pried glass away. "I will free you," he vowed. She let them chain her, head high, dignity wreathed in agony. Down steps through echoing passages she walked, stone-chewing heel tap. Crowds lined corridors. Some jeered, others wept. Outside September of Baylor Gates, Tommen's shattered statue seemed to watch, innocent carved gaze fixed on mother passing to fate. Bells tolled, deeper than sorrow, summoning realm to witness reckoning birthed from one poisoned plum. Night smothered city again. Jaime stood on ramparts, gaze lost in torch-sprinkled dark. Tyrion joined, offering wine. They drank in silence. "She will stand trial," Jaime murmured, "and perhaps walk free." Tyrion's eyes glinted. Faith rarely convicts queens, but the damage is done. Jaime thought of Tommen, of wildfire blasted square, of Joffrey pacing like cornered boar. He looked to Tyrion. When lions fight, who wins? The crows. Tyrion tapped cup. But sometimes, brother, a lion chooses another path. Choose wisely. Dawn's first pale shard pricked horizon. Bells would ring again soon, matins, trial, war drums perhaps. Jaime finished wine, set cup down. "We should have guarded the gentle one better." Tyrion laid hand on his arm. "We guard what we can, then we live with ghosts." Jaime nodded, turned toward stair. Below, city stirred. Hungry, hopeful, haunted. And in its restless murmur echoed the laughing ghost of a boy and the whisper of petals crushed beneath unforgiving boots. Moonlight bled across the scuffed tiles of the Queen's ballroom, tracing thin silvery veins through dust that no steward had dared sweep since the wildfire riot. In that half-lit expanse, Jaime Lannister stood alone, sword unsheathed, point resting against the marble depiction of the Reach inlaid at the hall's heart. Each compass rose hewn there glittered dully, its quartz shards catching stray glints from torches guttering far above. The ballroom smelled of stale roses, singed linen, and the faint musk of fear that soaked all stone these days. Jaime exhaled, feeling the cold sear of night air on his lungs. If he closed his eyes, he could still hear distant bells, still taste the alkaline tang of wildfire smoke. A shuffle behind him announced Tyrion, cloaked in dove gray. The dwarf eyed his brother's blade. Midnight lessons in choreography? Jaime straightened, rolling aching shoulders. "Sword remembers what I teach it." I must remind myself who I intend to protect. Father gave you a list? Tyrion's brow arched. A list too long for one man's guard. Jaime slid steel home. I leave for River Spring again before first light. Repairs their stall. Bandit chatter grows. Tyrion stepped closer, lowering his voice. Cersei stands trial on the morrow before the High Septon and 7 judges of the faith. You ride away. Jaime's hand tightened on hilt. Father ordered, perhaps to keep me from the hall, perhaps to keep Cersei from seeing me chained to oath, or to keep you breathing should verdict turn poorly. Tyrion's sigh steamed. The crowd's mood festers. If they cry for her head, Joffrey may answer with swords. The city will split by sunrise. Jaime closed his eyes. Memories flickered. Twin infants nestled in Joanna Lannister's arms. Cersei's laugh echoing through Casterly Rock's halls. Her whispered fears on their wedding night. He tasted the salt of her tears from 2 evenings past. I would trade every oath for her freedom. And damn the realm? Realm be damned if it slays its queen to sate rumor. Jaime opened eyes. Will you speak for her? My words would spur her enemies. Tyrion managed a brittle smile. But my silence may spare her worse. Steps echoed at the archway. Ser Gregor Clegane loomed, helmet tucked beneath an arm, face shadowed. Lord Hand summons you both, he grunted. Council chamber. Another midnight council, Tyrion muttered. Sleep is treason these nights. They followed the mountain's thunderous strides through torch-flicker corridors to the small council chamber. Inside, Tywin leaned across the map table, knuckles white upon golden lions. Olenna occupied a high-back chair, arms folded, fan closed. Varys lingered near a wall sconce, expression smooth. Garland Tyrell stood stiff, mail shirt half-buckled, having clearly been roused from bed. Marjorie sat beside her grandmother, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles blanched. Tywin's gaze snapped to Jaime. River Spring convoys report sabotage. Ships set ablaze midstream. Grain lost. Your presence no longer optional. You leave within the hour. Jaime inclined head though his heart lurched. As you command. Tywin turned to Tyrion. You remain. Faith trial convenes at sunrise. The crown will present evidence. You will manage the defense. The queen is to appear compliant. Tyrion rubbed temples. Very well. Might I have more than a handful of torch hours to prepare arguments? Prepare them while the queen sleeps, Tywin answered, voice flint. Her life depends on the outcome, as does the realm's. Olenna's fan clicked open, revealing rose-inked silk. Her life, perhaps, Lord Tywin, but not the realm's. We survive queens, kings, and storms alike. Tywin's nostrils flared. A storm you watered with poison, my lady. Olenna smiled thinly. Gardens flourish in rain. Before Tywin could retort, Varys spoke. My birds carried a note from Dorne at dusk. Prince Doran offers safe harbor for Princess Myrcella should turmoil threaten her life. He leverages Dornish neutrality as a bargaining chip. Grain from Planky Town, salt fish from the Greenblood. He suggests a regency council of his choosing if circumstances shift. Marjorie blinked. Myrcella as queen under Dornish guidance? Exactly, Varys cooed. A crown forged from sand, salt, and subtlety. Tywin rapped table. Myrcella remains under Lannister care. His stare skewered Jaime. Ensure no Dornish ship leaves the Blackwater with her aboard. Jaime bowed, though he had already resolved to see River Spring before dawn. Conflict tugged. Tywin pivoted to Garland. Your scouts. Qyburn remains hidden, Garland began. But we seized 3 more apprentices smuggling casks toward the Dragon Pit cellars. Under questioning, they named an address in Flea Bottom, a candlemaker's storeroom used as drop site. We raid tonight at second watch. Take double compliment, Tywin ordered. I want him alive, Garland nodded. Olenna's gaze flicked to her grandson. They shared unspoken worry. If Qyburn confessed under torture that Cersei hired him, trial's outcome sealed. If he claimed Tyrell complicity instead, rose stems would drip. Tywin dismissed all but Tyrion and Jaime. When others filed out, he spoke low. If Cersei is condemned, Joffrey's fury may drive him to folly. He trusts you, Jaime. Keep him contained. While I ride for River Spring, delay departure until verdict read. Tywin's eyes softened a fraction. As father, I ask, guard him. As hand, I command, protect the realm. Jaime nodded, feeling weight settle upon shoulders already bowed by secrets. The sky matted into bruised lavender as dawn crept. Bells tolled thrice. The September of Baelor Square filled. Faith militant, newly armed after King Joffrey's repeal of certain ancient edicts, lined steps in 7 columns. Each brother bore crystal-tipped mace glowing with captured candlelight. Small folk pressed beyond barricades, whispers swirling like winter crows. Will the queen burn? Will Joffrey take vengeance? Did the Tyrell crone curse the boy? Inside, incense curled through gilded nave. Marble statues still bore scorch marks where wildfire lick had blackened stone. At central dais, 7 judges in crystal masks awaited. The high septon, corpulent, his robes patched where last riot's ash had eaten silk, stood behind altar. Tyrion approached with quill and scrolls tucked beneath arm, Podrick trailing. Opposite, Ser Osmond Kettleblack led the prosecution's witnesses. 1 weeping apprentice in shackles, 2 gold cloaks claiming to have seen Cersei meet Qyburn at dusk before the wildfire riots. Joffrey sat on throne-like chair against north wall. Jaime stood behind him, Kingsguard arrayed. Loras dead-eyed, Balon Cray still pale from stab wound dressing, Ser Meryn drowsy. The king's expression resembled a child forced to attend lecture, bored yet simmering. Doors cr. Eeked. Cersei entered flanked by septas. Her white gown symbolized innocence. Iron chains at wrists contradicted. Crownless, hair woven back, she still carried lioness poise. Gasps rippled. Tyrion caught Jaime's tense swallow. Cersei met the high septon's gaze, dipped head faintly. Judges invited her to speak. She declined counsel, allowing hand of the king to present her case. Tyrion stepped forward. "My lords of the faith," he began, voice carrying. "We stand witness to the crown's grief. Prince Tommen's death still echoes. But grief is not guilt. Rumor is not proof. Today we weigh a queen's fate on evidence, not whispers." Kettleblack nodded to Gold Cloak witness. The guard described how Cersei visited Alchemist Vault night prior to riot, speaking with Qyburn. Under cross-examination, Tyrion revealed the guard owed 300 gold pieces to Guild of Chandlers, debts recently cleared by unknown benefactor. Guard stammered, judges noted. Next, apprentice sobbed recounting Cersei's order to mix wildfire and promised elevation. Tyrion questioned her memory. "What color was the queen's brooch that night?" she faltered. Tyrion produced ledger recording Queen wore morning black with no jewels for 7 days post-Tommen. Apprentice insisted memory true. Judges murmured. Finally, Tyrion presented parchment. Better to reign in ash. Proved to be scribed by Qyburn's own hand. Maester handwriting analysis from Pycelle. He argued Cersei seldom used metaphor. Her letters were blunt as swords. Chambers chuckled. He called Pycelle, who testified Queen rarely corresponded with alchemists since Blackwater. Prosecution rested on apprentice's oath and Gold Cloak claims. Tyrion rested on lack of physical proof. Faith judges withdrew to deliberate. Whispering tide in sept thickened. Outside, Square roared as something occurred near barricades. Tyrell guards clashed with Gold Cloaks. Jaime gripped Joffrey's chair. Loras stiffened. Bells tolled again. Judges returned within hour. High Septon cleared throat, voice echoing. "By the Father's wisdom we find charges unproven. Queen Cersei is absolved for want of evidence. The Mother's mercy be upon her." A thunderclap of reactions. Cheers, groans, prayers. Cersei sagged relief. Tyrion exhaled. Joffrey leapt, thrust fist skyward. Jaime smiled small, but High Septon lifted hand. Yet rumors of unnatural dealings persist. Thus, in accordance with precedent, we demand the Queen undertake a walk of faith. to prove humility and innocence before the seven. 7 days hence. Shock froze blood. Cersei's eyes widened, lips parted.
Joffrey erupted. No.
I am king. She walks nowhere. High Septon bowed. The faith obeys the seven foremost, your grace. Refusal invites excommunication. Joffrey's face purpled. Jaime placed hand on his shoulder. Grace, dry your sword. Accept, then reclaim dignity afterward. Cersei, white-lipped, spoke steady. I will walk, High Septon. Her eyes bored into Joffrey's. For Tommen, Septon inclined head. Court dismissed. Cersei's chains removed. She walked toward exit flanked by brothers. Joffrey stormed from Sept, cloak billowing. Jaime followed. Square outside bristled with tension. Gold cloaks formed cordon. Small folk cheered Queen's absolution. Others hissed at walk decree. Joffrey mounted horse, spurred toward Red Keep. Jaime kept pace. We burn the Sept, Joffrey snarled. Make them kneel. Do so and realm collapses, Jaime warned. Let it. Joffrey's eyes glittered violent tears. Jaime halted him near the hilltop. Your grace, recall Targaryen kings who burned their own city. They are remembered as madmen. Joffrey's breathing labored. I will be feared, not mocked. Fear turns to knives, Jaime replied. Rule with justice. Fear will follow. Words felt empty mouthfuls, yet he prayed seed might sprout. Joffrey wheeled horse, galloped ahead. Jaime breathed dust, feeling future crack along unseen seams. That night torches ringed Flea Bottom raid site. Garland led Tyrell spearmen, Lannister red cloaks close. They breached candle maker shop, descending cellar.
We phi tang choket.
Rats fled. They found Qyburn hunched over green glowing cauldron, hands smeared with black pitch. At sight of steel he laughed. Lannister roses bloom at last. Garland struck him with pommel. Qyburn fell, hissing. They shackled him, seized scrolls. Cauldron's viscous contents bubbled. Garland unstoppered wineskin, doused bucketfuls of sand. Quenching glow, he signaled withdrawal. In courtyard above, Olenna awaited within covered litter. Garland approached, breath ragged. We have him. Alive. Aye. Then bring him to our tents, she ordered. Not the dungeons. We speak first. Garland hesitated but complied. Qyburn gagged, hauled into carriage. Tyrell banners whisked away into night before Lannister riders noticed. Within Tyrell pavilion lines, Qyburn lay bound atop trestle table. Olenna sat opposite, candlelight dancing in sapphire eyes. My lady, Qyburn croaked, lips split. You think I act for Queen alone? Olenna tapped Cain. I think you act for chaos. He grinned bloody. Chaos fertilizes change. Your grandson's songs, flowers sprout in ash. Tyrell dreams? You cannot reshape the realm with gentle hands. Yet you tried, she said, voice low. Who funds you? Gold from many purses. He spat. Cersei paid for barrels. Varys supplied maps. Even your own coin purchased rare resin for stable conflagrations. Olenna's brow arched. Lie better. My coin never lies unaccounted. Perhaps not, he wheezed. But agents act unseen. His eyes gleamed mania. Wildfire still hidden, my lady. 18 casks not found. One kiss of flame and King's Landing becomes Harrenhal reborn. Olenna leaned forward. Where? He chuckled. Ask the stranger. He bit through tongue's tip, choked blood, and ceased breathing before shocked guards pried jaws. Olenna watched crimson pool soak straw. She exhaled. Fool planted seeds of rumor. Now they sprout. She turned to Garland. Burn the body before dawn. Keep scrolls. What of casks? Search every sewer, crypt, and midden. Use dogs, wargs, gods if need be, and pray we find them before flame does. 3 dawns later, Jaime rode through Gate of the Gods returning from River Spring, cloak dust-choked, heart heavy. A second convoy torched north of Maidenpool. 15 soldiers charred. He handed report to Tywin, who read stone-faced. Bandits? Jaime asked. Bannerless men using reach weapons, Tywin said. Someone in flames border raiders to kneecap grain. Jaime lifted brow. Tywin added, Hightower ravens speak of sell-sale contracts in Old Volantis. Mercenaries sailing north for generous purse. Va creeps. Jaime collapsed onto bench. Is peace possible? Not while wildfire barrels lurk. Tywin's eyes burned. Find them. The day of Cersei's walk of faith dawned cold despite high summer. The queen stood barefoot in simple linen shift, hair shorn to shoulders. Her green eyes flared with iron. Septas cut chains. High Septon prayed. Outside, crowds thronged. Joffrey, forced to remain inside Maegor's holdfast, watched from balcony, face pale. Cersei stepped onto Sep's stairs. Silence fell heavy. She walked. Each stride rang on marble. Some spat. Others bowed heads. Faith militant flanked. Cersei kept gaze forward, shoulders square. Jaime shadowed among gold cloaks at perimeter, sword loose in scabbard. Tyrion followed afar, ready to intervene should stones fly. Halfway through street of silk, jeers rose. Rotten fruit arced. A chunk struck her shoulder. She did not flinch. Another sword, Jaime's gauntlet, shot up, deflecting. Loras and guards formed shield ring. Sudden scream. Near Ironmaker's Way, a wine barrel at roof edge tipped. Viscous green liquid poured, splashing onto cobbles ahead. Wildfire. Torchlight flicked from vendor's stall, spark drifting. Jaime's heart froze. A hand, small, calloused, snatched torch away, stamping flame. It was Marjorie, disguised in rough cloak among crowd. Wildfire puddle hissed but unignited. Guards rushed, ushered Cersei past. Panic rippled but contained. Jaime locked eyes with Marjorie. Gratitude unspoken. Cersei reached Red Keep gate intact. Bells told triumph. She knelt at Bailey, kissed soil. Joffrey rushed down steps, tears streaking. Mother! They embraced, sobs tearing. Jaime exhaled. That night, a secret council convened. Tywin, Cersei, hair replaited, draped in crimson, Tyrion, Jaime, Olenna, and Marjorie, plus Varys. Tywin addressed wildfire threat. We traced stolen barrels to tunnels beneath Dragon Pit. 7 remain. Garland's search retrieved 8. 3 more still hidden. Varys produced scroll from captured apprentice cell. Circuitous map of Sept crypts linking to Red Keep dungeons. The final caches likely placed under throne foundations. Cersei shuddered. Who dares touch the throne's roots? Madmen or visionaries? Olenna said. Either way, remove them. Tywin turned to Jaime. You lead squad into tunnels. Disable casks. Tonight. Jaime nodded. Olenna said, My scouts know Dragon Pit catacombs. They join. Tywin grudgingly agreed. Cersei reached for Jaime's hand. Come back. I cannot lose another son or brother. Her voice cracked. He squeezed. I will. At midnight, Torch Squad descended Old Valyrian brick stair behind Kingsguard Armory. Air grew cold, smelling of salt and rot. Jaime led, Loras close, 2 Tyrell scouts and 4 gold cloaks behind. Tunnel walls dripped. Rats squeaked. Hours passed twisting halls. At junction near collapsed well, scouts signaled halt. Beyond, faint jade glow seeped from fissure. They inched forward, blades drawn. Chamber opened, ancient cavern of fused stone where dragon skull once chained. Now, barrels stood atop cracked dais, glowing fissures. 2 cloaked figures knelt arranging fuses. Jaime whispered. Loras nodded. They sprang. First guard tackled saboteur. Second spun, brandishing dagger. Jaime met him steel to steel. Torchlight revealed a face gaunt, eyes fever-wide. It was brother Lancel Lannister, Cersei's cousin. Jaime's blade parried frantic stabs. Lancel, yield. Queen must burn to cleanse sins. Lancel cried. Wound from earlier arrow seamed his cheek. He lunged. Jaime disarmed, pommel striking temple. Lancel collapsed. Other saboteur, hood fallen, proved to be Osney Kettleblack. Loras subdued him with knee to spine. Gold cloaks hauled prisoners. Jaime studied barrel. Fuse half-oiled. Spark could have raced to throne's foundations. He and scouts drenched cask with sand, hammered iron lid shut, hoisted onto sled. They found 2 more barrels down adjoining corridor, similarly rigged. By dawn, crates hoisted through winch into courtyard, where Pycelle's apprentices mixed lime slurry to neutralize compound. One misstep could ignite, yet gods or luck stayed hand. Morning council rejoiced. Tywin ordered Lancel and Osney thrown into black cells. Under interrogation, they confessed service to extremist sect within faith militant, warriors of the light, preaching purification by flame. Qyburn recruited them, promising redemption for sins. Their next target had been throne pillars during coronation feast in Fortnight. Cersei wept relief, guilt for cousin cut deep. High Septon proclaimed faith militant infiltration disavowed. He executed extremist leaders. Margaery visited Cersei privately. None knew words exchanged, but rumors of mutual apology spread. Weeks passed. Grain flowed freer. Hunger eased. Stannis' ships docked monthly, forging tentative trade routes. In gratitude, small folk sang of blessed Shireen, though few had met her. Dorne's offer faded under Tywin's stern reply, yet lines of correspondence opened via Ravenry. Olenna and Tywin negotiated marriage pact revision. Joffrey to wed Margaery as planned, but under charter limiting royal powers by council decree. Bread for roses, swords for lions. Joffrey fumed yet ceded when Jaime and Cersei both urged. Faith militant disarmed by royal edict. High Septon accepted, citing corruption in ranks. Some brothers fled to hills swearing vengeance, but realm exhaled. On Midsummer Eve, a quiet ceremony in Gods would bound Joffrey and Margaery by words not widely publicized. Tywin insisted minimal pomp until stability sure. Under weeping willow canopy they exchanged vows. Joffrey's hand trembled yet voice steady. Margaery smiled, perhaps seeing possibility of taming lion cub into king. Jaime watched from edge, thoughts drifting to Tommen's laughter. Later, he knelt before Heart Tree alone. "I could not save him," he whispered, "but I saved the realm from burning for now." Leaves rustled as if in answer. Behind, Tyrion approached with 2 cups of wine. "To temporary victories," he toasted. Jaime accepted. "Temporary is the only kind we get." They drank beneath moonlit boughs. Months rolled. Wheat sheaths waved golden outside city walls. Flea-bottom markets bustled with spice scents, hammered copper pans clanging cheerful. Children played near Blackwater's repaired quays, reenacting Queen's Walk with giggles. The city's scars remained, charred stones, missing statues, but life seeded new mortar. And sometimes, in hush between dawn chime and cockcrow, a kitten's mule drifted from royal gardens where a small headstone bore the name Tommen. Beside, rose bush planted by Margaery bloomed violet petals year-round. Rare reach breed, gifted by Olenna, one final whisper of gentle boy. Cersei visited often, palms pressed to cool marble, tears drying on wind. Joffrey came seldom, yet when he did he left copper coins among roots, memory of brothers' generosity. Jaime stood afar those mornings, hand resting on golden grip, wondering if redemption measured in lives spared weighed heavier than crimes of life taken. He would never forget whiff of poisoned sugar on child's lips, or wildfire's emerald roar, or queen's silent stride along stone. But he had planted seeds of peace within ravaged soil. Peace would sprout thorns. He knew. Every rose did. Yet under rising sun, birds chattered hope across ramparts and bells told harvest rather than alarm. For a kingdom built on ash and blood, that Jaime reckoned was victory enough for now. Far to the north, ravens winged across dawn-pink sky carrying tidings of southern calm, but winter sharpened edges beyond the wall. In their eerie croaks might lurk prophecy, that storms once quelled soon stir anew, and wildfire's echo never truly fades. Yet those tales wait in flurries yet to fall. For this day, in halls of shattered marble patched with new mortar, men and women breathed without fear of sudden flame. Children laughed unaware of conspiracies buried beneath cobbles, and a fatigued knight of the Kingsguard let his sword rest against a blooming rose, content, for a heartbeat, to watch petals sway upon gentle wind.